Welcome to the eSpeakers CSP Webinar. We appreciate you taking some time out of your busy day to join us. My name is Joe Heaps, and I'm joined by my business partner here at eSpeakers, Dave Reed. And a special bonus today at the webinar is Gene Beck, CSP Administrator for the National Speakers Association. And Gene will join us at the end for some Q&A after Dave's presentation. This webinar is being recorded. We'll send you a link to the webinar later today so you can review it, go back and take notes and remember some of the things that we've talked about, or if you need to leave early, you'll have that as a reference. As Dave does his demo today, please use the Q&A button at the bottom of your Zoom video window and submit questions that way. We'll answer most of those at the end of Dave's presentation. If I'm able to, I may answer them as Dave is presenting as well, but we'll save the Q&A section to the end. And we can't hear any of you, so the best way to do that is through the Q&A button on the bottom if you have a question or a comment. So let's go ahead and get it rolling here. Dave, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Joe. Hey, welcome everyone. Happy to be here. Joe mentioned that Jean Beck from the NSA is going to join us. We thought she would be on now, but she's having some computer issues. Hopefully by the time we get to the Q&A section, Jean will have those worked out and have joined us. But today, this is kind of an informal webinar. We want to mostly demonstrate and train on a new feature called the CSP Progress Dashboard. You should be watching this webinar if there's a CSP in your future. That might mean that you are submitting the CSP soon. That the submission window for 2018 just opened up about 2 weeks ago and runs through January. And that's your window to submit for this year. And so you may have a bunch of shoeboxes full of data, and now you need to collect it and format it and prepare the application, to submit here in a couple of months. You may be at a point where the CSP is a few years in your future. And that's actually a great place to start tracking it with the tool that I'm going to show you today. But in either case, if a CSP is in your future, near or far, this is a great webinar for you to see. Again, today will be mostly demonstration. You're going to learn along the way. You're going to see a lot of the event requirements for the 2008 CSP. Most importantly, you're going to learn how to make sure that you're collecting everything you need about your events as you go along. Because what I don't want to happen is that at the end of a 1 or 5 or 10 year process of collecting this data, I don't want anybody to have a forehead slap moment where you're like, oh man, I didn't know I was supposed to be collecting this the whole time, and now I got to try to go back over 8 years of data and anyway. I want you to be prepared and collecting everything that you need as you go. And then you'll also see how having an instant read on your CSP progress, which is something that's never been possible before. The CSP Progress Dashboard I'm going to show you today is the first time there's been anything like that. And with that sort of continuous progress check, we expect that people are going to be able to get their CSPs quicker. You'll know right when you qualify and can submit right away. You don't have to sort of guess. Joe mentioned the Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. It looks a little bit like this. I just scrolled it up on the display here. If you have questions as I go ahead and enter them right there. We won't stop right then and take the question, but it'll queue up. And when we get to the Q&A section, it'll be there and ready to go, and we'll take those. So go ahead and submit those as they come to you. Submit the questions as they occur to you, and then we will tackle them near the end. Before we get into the demo, I just want to share, for those of you who may be new to eSpeakers, I want to share what eSpeakers is about. I want to share why it is that we are investing in creating tools like this for professional speakers. When you talk to the staff here at eSpeakers, whether you are buying a new product or one of our services, whether you are calling in for customer support, I hope that you'll feel from me, from Joe, from our staff, that we genuinely believe that when a speaker gets in front of an audience that needs to learn what they can teach, that there's some magic that happens. Individuals get improved on a personal level. Organizations can gain improvements that are long-term and can last them for years in the future, or can change corporate culture permanently. And so here at eSpeakers, we want to help you do that more often. We want to help you get in front of those audiences that need your message more often. And that's how we do our little bit of good in the world, is by helping you do yours more often. So that's what we're here about. And with that, let's move on to the demo. Oh, we'll get to the coupon code afterwards. Oops. All right. Looking at the shared screen here, you'll see this demonstration today done on our Event CX tool. Event CX is an application that that speakers use to run their business. Event CX is the place where all of your event information goes in, and then it can flow out from there. And I won't be talking much more about all the features of Event CX today. I'll be focusing just on the ones that apply to generating your CSP. So the easiest way to do the demonstration and make sure that you get everything you need is for me just to let you watch while I go through the process of entering one event. And when you see that from start to finish, you'll see every piece that needs to be entered. Oh, I did want to mention one thing. As far as taking notes go, there we go. As far as taking notes, if you're going to take any notes, these two addresses that I just highlighted are the things to take notes on. Everything that I talk about today is listed on our wiki page. That's this top link right here. And everything from the NSA about applying is here at this second URL. What
Dave,
you'll see.
Dave, I've added those both in the chat window as well if they wanted to copy them from there.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Thank you. So obviously, I'm going to be focusing on the event. In fact, let me just show you this. The big bad ugly part of the CSP application is a spreadsheet that looks something like this, and it's got hundreds of rows. There's a lot of detailed information from your last 10 years of eventing, of going and doing speaking engagements. And it's kind of a bear from what I hear from CSPs who have gone through that process. There are other parts of the application process that you have to do with the NSA. This spreadsheet is the only one that eSpeakers deals with, but that's the bulk, that's the big nasty part of the application. So with that, let's move on here. We're going today to create a new event. Now, one of the questions that I get asked a lot about this is, what if I haven't been running my business on Event CX this whole time, and can I go back and back enter events? And the answer is yes, and that happens pretty commonly. And so what I'll demonstrate today is how I would go back and back enter a date from, let's say, 2016. Now, I'm signed into Event CX right now as our demo speaker, Zeke Ridges. And let's just say that Zeke's got an event on July 21st, and this is 2016, that we need to go in and back enter. So I'm just going to click there. I'll click Create New. And the first thing that I want to do is I want to enter the name of my client. So we're going to say that this is the Queen's accounting firm. I think everybody knows that on demos, you type way worse when you got people watching you than otherwise. So forgive my typing today. I'm presenting to the Queen's accounting firm. My status is confirmed. The status is very important. Only confirmed and closed status events are included on the CSP application. Holds and leads and postponed events are not included in that. So the status is critical, either confirmed or closed. You'll notice this personal blackout. This is used to put, you got your daughter's wedding that you're not going to take an engagement. You can black a date out. Blackout personal dates do not get included on the CSP application. So don't check that box if you want this to be on the application. Okay, our date is filled in for us already, 7/16/2016. The city, now the city and state are not strictly needed for the CSP application. I always enter it anyway because it's very helpful keeping track of things and it's easy to enter right there. So do enter those. Your primary contact is required. This is important. Let's go with, I'm just gonna enter the name, the phone number. And the email address. Those are all important to enter. Now, because this is a backdated event, I don't want EventCX's action list to trigger and send me notices that things need to be done. So I'm going to set this to no actions just to turn off EventCX's reminders since this is a backdated event. And then we'll go ahead and create the event. Again, since this is a backdated event, I don't need to notify my coworkers about the schedule change. So we'll do no thanks there. All right, so we've got an event created here. The event reason is what the meeting's about. This could be their annual sales meeting. This could be a quarterly training meeting. Let's call this one a quarterly managers training. We'll enter that. Again, our status is important. We'll leave that at confirmed. The event type, this is important. If you actually traveled somewhere and showed up on site, this should be set to on site. If it is done virtually, you're going to choose probably video/web, maybe phone. Part of the NSA requirement, and you'll see this later on, is that you stay under 25% virtual events. So this is important to accurately set. This one was on site. There's our stage time with the July 16th date. And that's all we need to do on this tab. I'm going to save. Let's go over to the contacts tab. Now you remember when we created the event, we had Roger Taylor on there. I'm going to click into Roger Taylor and show you one thing about this. Well, let me back up before we do that. First of all, it is important to have a contact, at least one contact on every event that you have for your CSP. A portion of those need to be what we call evaluation contacts. And these are contacts who will get a request for a written appraisal of your performance for them, an evaluation. And you're required to have 20 of those. I recommend that you have more than 20 because not everyone's going to respond. So you got to have at least 30, maybe even 35 people identified as evaluation contacts to make sure that you get at least 20 of those back filled out. So again, you need a contact on every one. The NSA does do some spot checking there. At least 20 should be identified further here as a CSP evaluation contact. So I'm going to make sure that that check mark is on, and then we'll save this. Okay, great. Moving on, we don't need travel for the CSP. Services, here's another important spot. Part of the requirement for CSP is that you earn a certain amount of money. You'll see this on the progress dashboard here in a few minutes, but here's how you record the money that you made for this event. You're just going to add one or more services. When you add a service, you need to enter what we call a grouping code. The grouping code's important. Now, you're going to make up your grouping code. There's no, these are 4 to 6 character codes, and you can make them be whatever you want for your office. These are internal to your office. They can be whatever you want, but you need to be consistent with them. And you'll, again, see why when we go to generate our CSP application. So this was a keynote. I'm going to use the code KEYN for a keynote. And my description, this was just a standard keynote fee, which for Zeke Ridges is $8,500. We'll add that. One of the other services that you may enter on an event is same-day sales. Same-day sales and your speaking fee are the 2 fees that can count towards CSP. Again, in my office, I'm going to use the code SDS for same-day sales. It could be anything. You make it up. It's internal to your office as long as you're consistent with it. And we're just going to say this is, oops. and say this is same day sales. And let's say that I made $568.72 off same day sales that day. I'm going to click that. Now, again, as you're running your business off EventCX, you're going to have some other service fees in here, like a negative number if there's a bureau commission. Your travel fee can go in here, coded with a code that means travel in your office. But when we're back entering, we only need to enter the things that are going to count toward CSP data. So that's it for that. Action lists we don't need, custom tab, library, skip over those and go to the miscellaneous tab. Okay, so the presentation title. This is important. Your dress is not important. Your audience size is important. Let's say that we had 860 people here. You're not going to know the exact audience count for every engagement that you do. Obviously, make your best effort to make that accurate, but don't put in a range. Don't do this. Don't put in 860 to 900. Just put in a single number there. Don't use commas, digits only. And then finally down here, we're going to make sure that this tick mark right here, which says include, oh, let me save that first. Here we go. This tick mark right here, which says include on CSP application, I want to make sure that that is ticked on. And then, and this is something new for the CSP application, or recent anyway, the NSA now counts toward your minimum income requirement, money that you earn as a salaried employee. So I'll explain a little bit more about that here in just a minute. But if this event had been done for part of my W-2 salaried job, I got paid by an employer an annual salary to do this, then I would tick this box, perform for salaried job, and then I would not, let me save that. If it's performed for salary job, I would not enter any numbers here on the services. If you tick perform for salary job, anything you've entered into services gets ignored. So it's one or the other. I'm either doing it on my own and I enter services, or I'm doing it for an employer and I tick this box that says perform for salary job. All right. I think that takes us through everything we need to enter an event. It doesn't, we just spent 5 or 6 minutes doing that. When you're doing this in practice, that goes by in about 60 seconds. It's very quick to enter. And again, if you're running your business on EventCX, then you have all this anyway, because this is the place you enter those things in your office. Okay, so we've gone through the process of entering an event. Again, the wiki article that you have a link to goes through all the items I just talked about. So let's now take a look at the magic. This is the exciting thing. I'm going to go here to my events, and I'm going to click CSP progress, and this will be your name here. And here's a cool thing: you can do this as often as you want. You'll see it only takes like a second to do. This window pops up. It opens a separate window, and you'll see why the separate window is valuable here in just a moment. It pops up a separate window, and it's going to ask us just a few more questions. The first one is, it's saying which of your service codes should be included toward your CSP income. And again, that can only be your honorarium. That's money that you earned for speaking or training. And it can also be your same day sales. You can't include expenses. You can't include travel. So in our office, we use this code HDWK for a half-day workshop. That can count. We use the code KEYN for a standard keynote fee. You saw that. We're going to check that one on. It should be included. This consulting should not. This material and other costs should not. Same day sales, yes. Travel, no. So I'm going to tick the boxes that should legitimately count toward CSP income. And you can see here why it's important to be consistent as you go through and enter the service codes on your events. It makes it really easy here to just tag those. The other side of the screen over here on the right, if I earned a salary as a speaker by an employer, I can enter some numbers in here for that. If you did not work for an employer, then just leave these all 0. That's fine. So when you first come fill this out, these will all be zeros. And so if you weren't an employee, just skip right past that. But let's say in Zeke's case, let's say that he worked as an employee in 2017. And the way this works is if you earned an $80,000 salary and a quarter of your time was spent presenting, then you can count a quarter of your salary, which in this case would be $20,000. And then let's say we did the same thing in 2013. Again, our salary was $80,000. This time we spent half of our time speaking. So we get to use half of our salary, which for the year, which would be $40,000. Okay, so I've entered those things in, and now I get to press this magic button and find out how I'm doing. Generate, and here we go. The CSP progress dashboard for Zeke Ridges. Now, one thing I want to call your attention to here, it's showing me events September 20th, 2008 through 2018. So whenever you pull this up, this is always a sliding 10-year window. Keep in mind that as this window of time moves forward, oh, Joe's letting me know that the status window's off the screen. Do we get it? Or somebody was.
Yeah, no, that's better. Just put it in the middle. You're good.
Okay. As this window of time moves forward, new events are going to come in the front. Older events are going to drop out the back. So just remember, this is a sliding window. So onto the dashboard here. At a glance, I can look down this middle column of check marks, and I can tell exactly what is good and what's not good. Any red means I'm not there yet. Green, obviously good. If there's yellow, yellow means this is not a showstopper, but it's something that you either need to repair or explain. When you submit this to the NSA, there's something in there that's going to be a red flag to them. And if it's legitimate, you just need to provide an explanation for it. But red's a showstopper. So looking here, one of the requirements is that I perform 250 paid engagements. I can see here that I've done 199. So I need 51 more that qualify. I need to earn $50,000 in the last, I need to earn $50,000 per year for 5 out of the last 10 years. And I can see very easily here that I've done that for 6 of the last 10 years. Here's one of the checks. Small audience. The NSA allows up to 25% of my events to be to an audience smaller than 15, although they have to be at least 3. If they're less than 3, the event doesn't qualify in any case. But I can have up to 25% that are between 3 and 15. If I have more than that, it's a problem. I can see I'm looking good there. I've got 12% that are low, that are small attendees, small audience. On-site versus virtual. I mentioned this earlier. 36% of my events are virtual. That's a problem. I'm going to show you how to easily go through and fix that here in just a second. And then I can see that of my 20 required evaluation contacts, I've already identified 29. So I'm looking good there. Last 3, a couple of years ago, actually it's just a year ago, we went to the NSA and we said, hey, tell us what some of the most common reasons are that you have to reject CSP applications. And so they shared with us one of the things that they look for, even if the other check marks are checked, even if you've qualified in lots of other ways, one of the things that they look for is lots of events on the same day. That smells wrong. And so if they detect that on your application, they're going to come back to you and it's either going to get rejected or you're going to have to explain that. The progress report here identifies that. If you've got those, I'm going to show you down below how to know exactly where those problems are. But we've got a yellow check mark here, which means the system detected some same-day events that the NSA is going to also have to ask about. Low fee groups. One of the things that the NSA is going to look for is if you've done a batch of events that are sort of grouped together and also much lower than your normal fee. That's a red flag for them. So our system goes through and looks for those same kind of groups and warns you if you have any of those. And makes it easy to go and fix those. If you have unusual fees on an event, fees that are much higher or much lower than your average fee, the system detects that and can warn you about that before the NSA has to reject your application or go back and ask you about it. Now, as far as fixing things, I want to show you how easy that is to do. I'm going to slide this over a little bit. That may put it just a little bit out of the sharing window, but I think we can still see what's going on here. Down below the checklist, every qualified event, or sorry, not every qualified, every event in the time range, qualified or unqualified, is displayed here. And for instance, one of my problems was that I had too many virtual events. I got 36%, I can only have 25. I need to get rid of some of those virtual events. Well, if I go down here and find a virtual event, you can see these tags over here on the right. Let's find a virtual event. If I click on the virtual tag, it's going to sort all of the virtual tagged events to the top of the list. Let's do that. So I just clicked the virtual tag. Now all of my virtual tagged events are at the top. I'm going to go through and get rid of some where I didn't make any money. So here's an event I did in 2009. It's virtual. I didn't make any money off of it. I want to take it out of consideration to help my ratio. I'm just going to click on this little external link button there. And you can see this window behind, Event CX jumps right to that event. I'm going to untick that box and then choose Save. And now, that's giving me a message about something else. But I would just untick that box and click Save. And now that event's off my list for consideration. I might go in and take this one off as well. I can go in here, do that. I'll untick it and I'll save it. I could do the same thing for if I have low attendee events. I can sort all of those to the top. And maybe it's just that I didn't enter the attendees. And so I need to go through, look at these, and enter attendees. I can see this audience size is 7. Maybe I realize I go back in my records. Oh, that was actually supposed to be 57. That was a mistype. I can save that. Now it's fixed. So going back and forth between these two windows makes it very easy to repair your data and go in and find out where your problems are and get everything entered properly. When it's time to actually submit to the NSA, all you need to do is click Download Excel file. The events that you have will be all gathered together. An Excel spreadsheet will be created in the exact format that Gene at the NSA needs. And I think I've seen Gene join us, which is great timing because we're just about to Q&A. But what you do is you just download Excel file. It's going to generate that big gnarly Excel spreadsheet for you. And you will then send that to Gene along with the other parts of your CSP application. And that is the demo. Told you it wouldn't take too long, and we've got plenty of time for some Q&A now. Gene, did we get your microphone working okay? Go ahead and chime in.
I believe so. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
we got you.
Perfect.
All right. We're privileged to have Gene with us. I mentioned earlier that Gene is the one that is going to be in charge of processing the CSP applications that you send in. So it's great to have her with us for some Q&A. This will be right from the source here. But let's go ahead. Joe, did we have any
Dave, yeah, we do.
questions come in during?
Yeah. So one of the questions is, do salary job projects count towards CSP?
They do. So step number 1 in your application process, go to nsaspeaker.org and find the certification page under the About tab. And when you go there, you'll see that there are a number of resources. The resources that you do want to look at are the FAQs and the How to Earn Your CSP handbook. How to Earn Your CSP answers all of those questions, as do the FAQs. And then after taking a look at those, from there, if you have questions, you can always email certification@nsaspeaker.org and we'll take care of you.
Perfect. Awesome. So just a reminder to everybody that's attending today, if you have additional questions, put it in the Q&A section at the bottom of your video window, and we'll get to those as we go. So another question Brandon has is, why does consulting not count towards CSP?
Maybe it does. Gene, you want to respond to that? Does consulting count toward as an engagement towards CSP?
It depends on the nature of the consulting. So what we're looking at is live presentations in front of an audience count of 15 or more. However, 25% of your presentations can be to an audience of between 3 and 15. So you do still have a low audience count option. So if that's the issue, that answers that. In terms of just straight consultation, if it's a back and forth consultation, it's not actually a presentation. Obviously, if you're standing in front of an audience and there's a Q&A happening with the audience as part of your presentation, that's a little different scenario than if you are consulting one-on-one or 1 to 3. That's not a presentation, that's a consultation. So it does depend on the nature of it.
Okay. Thanks.
Perfect. All right. Freeman has a question. He says, besides keynotes, I also do multi-day leadership training with companies and organizations. Do I create a single event, or do I create an event for each day that I'm speaking? I think that's talking about Event CX, Dave.
Yeah, let me field that one. If the audience size and other things like the presentation title are the same across each of those multi-day things, then you can go in on the details tab of Event CX and just add new stage times. So I could add, if I'm going to be on site for 3 days and I'm presenting 4 times during that, I would add 4 stage times, one for each time I'm in front of an audience. And the system will process that as it should. If my audience size or my presentation title is going to change between those, then I need to create those as separate events. So there's the answer on that one.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions. Is one of the attendees had a multi-day conference and breakouts on different days and same issue. So yeah, you just answered that. Good.
Cool.
And actually, lots of questions on multi-day events. So that I think you did a good job there, Dave. Hope so. If not, please let us know. Another question from Jim. Does NSA have a recommended approach or language for asking previous clients to do an evaluation?
Yes, actually, for this year's applicants, along with an evaluation link that they'll be sending to their clients, there will be a template that's sent. That language has not been specifically built yet, but it's going to be rebuilt based on some past communications. I think it's a perfect opportunity to ask for referrals, to remind the client of their interaction with you, and to take a soft sell approach so that you can not only get your evaluation back from that client, but also maybe move forward with additional referrals. We know that this has happened for a number of CSP applicants in the past.
Cool. All right. Christy has a question. Is there a way to get references checked in a more timely way rather than go back 10 years and call someone who may not even be with the company anymore?
That is a tough challenge. So the rules of CSP application state that it has to be someone who's witnessed you speaking who is going to provide the evaluation. So if that person is no longer with the company, that's pretty much on you, the applicant, to stay in contact with your clients and to know who's who. There is a 10-year time frame allowable for the overall content of your spreadsheet, for your earnings to be counted. You do not have to go back 10 years. If you have 250 presentations, if you met the requirements for the 5 years of 50,000 earnings per year within a 5-year period, you certainly can do that. It's just that the 10 years are what you can use.
Okay, good. All right, next question from Willie. Does the speaking events count before you have to become an NSA member, or from the date of NSA going forward?
Yes, and when you take a look at the FAQs, you'll see that if meeting all other requirements of the application process, if you have events in a 10-year period, in the last 10-year period, that happened before you became an NSA member, those would still count. You did not have to be an NSA member during all of your events that you're using for the application.
Okay, good question. Another question, I have a company paying me a monthly retainer, giving 3 2-hour workshops per day on varying dates over the year for the last 6 years. How do I count that?
You would want to do the math on that and divide accordingly per presentation. So you want to figure out a per presentation fee and then include notes alongside that entry in the spreadsheet.
And okay. I'll add on to that, Joe, if I might. Just remember, let's go back here and change the settings. You have an opportunity here as you prepare your report to put in the portion of your salary that was done presenting, and the system will automatically apply that for the year, for the salary year that you've got. And then on the event itself, you would just tick this performed for salary job checkbox to have the report tally that up for you.
Okay.
So retainer, and you guys can address this, Dave and Joe, a retainer would be handled in your platform similar to a salary position.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Good.
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have been using, retainer as a synonym for salary, treating it the same way.
Great.
Yeah. Daniel asked the question, 90% of my speaking is as a traveling corporate trainer. My classes are generally 10 people because it's not just about sharing information. When my students complete, they have actually performed the learned skill. How will I ever be able to achieve a CSP?
You would have to have those groups exceed that audience count. That's not something I can, give you hope on. I don't think those, although the application process changes slightly from year to year, those are requirements that were set by committee and have been the same consistently for a number of years. I don't anticipate the audience count going any lower than it currently is. Currently, they do allow for 25% of your presentations to be within the audience range that you're talking about. But
okay.
That other 75% of 15 or more.
Okay. We may have already addressed this, but here's a question from Elena on the application. How do we credit multi-day events? Does each day count, each module? Where is the breakdown?
Anytime your audience changes, your topic changes, those are separate events. So if you're at a corporation and you're presenting on one topic to an audience, and then the next day you're presenting a different topic to the same audience, those are two separate presentations. If you're in the same day and your audience changes, those are two separate presentations. So you think audience, think topic, and then the other requirements still remain.
Cool. And again, to add on to that, as you're entering that into Event CX, if it's the same audience, in fact, Gene, the way you just described that was better than I did it earlier. If you're presenting to the same audience, different topic, you would add an additional stage time to the same event. If you're switching topics, then you would create a new event, a separate event for that would have a different presentation title there.
And just to note, those types of submissions will always require some kind of note on the spreadsheet to explain that in clear terms next to the entry. And you can add that after the download.
Cool. Jim asks, when will the NSA recommend language template be available?
It's going to be available this year to this year's applicants. It's not something that would be sent out to people who aren't in the application process, since it only goes to clients who are clients of those of the applicants. So it's not something that's probably going to be publicly on the website. It only applies to the application process.
Okay.
But it will be available this year in this year's application process.
All right. Moving on, Elizabeth asks, I have clients who bulk purchase books as part of the fee in the initial contract. How do those be annotated on the form?
Same day sales of products and services, if they happen the same day as your presentation, do count in terms of the dollar amount. There is a space in the spreadsheet for that. I'm not sure about your platform, Dave, how that works. Or
yeah, so what you do as you're entering the event into Event CX, you would add a service. You'd use whatever code you make up for same day sales. I'm going to use SDS there. And then you'd put pre-sold books and the dollar amount that you earned off of that. If you sold $850 of pre-sold books that are going to be given out that day, then I would just add that, and then that will be counted correctly. Perfect.
All right. Freeman asks, with my workshops, I have a standard evaluation that I gather from all participants. Sometimes it is via a survey. Can I submit summary reports from those events as evaluations?
No, these are independent evaluations that had in the past been gathered directly from the clients by NSA. At this time, we're having the applicants send those links directly to their clients, and it's a link that provides formatted answers to very specific questions that go into the evaluation process and that the committee looks at. So although your evaluations are definitely valuable feedback for you, they're not part of the application process.
Okay. Brandon says, moving forward, is this the only way to apply for a CSP, or can it be done traditionally through the tracking methods?
It definitely can be done traditionally through the tracking methods, and that will always be available. There is nothing, no forced avenue of application. You still need to meet all of the requirements no matter what, and this structure allows you to see your progress.
Okay, good. Cheryl asks, I have had 4 different salaried positions that involve speaking over the last 5 years. Do I put the specific name of the company and company division?
So if you take a look at the How to Earn Your CSP and FAQs and the website page for application, you'll see that one of the documents on the page is, or one of the suggested documents for you to download and take a look at is a checklist for you. It's going to point you to the fact that you're going to need a letter from each of those employers stating your salary at the time you were presenting that year, the percentage of salary that year that you spent speaking or that you were paid for speaking. And you're going to need one of those documents from each of those employers, and you're going to need to list them individually in that sense. So that document is going to say who you presented to. You can also notate that off to the side in the spreadsheet for that entry that this is the individual employer. It's not uncommon for applicants to have more than one salaried entry on their spreadsheets. So you would treat it just like all your other salaried entries in that sense.
Cool. Just a follow-up question to the same-day sales.
Hang on just a
second.
second.
Yeah. You were going to show that. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add on to that, this company division field is not related to performing for a salaried job. So part of your question was, do you need to enter the salary pair here in company division? And you don't need to. That field is used if you're speaking for the same company but different divisions of it. You can track that there. It's actually not required to do that for the CSP anymore. It used to be, but not related to a salaried gig.
Okay.
Go ahead, Joe.
Good. No, sorry about that. Didn't give you a chance to answer. Just a follow-up question to the same-day sales. We have a question about clarification. So books purchased by clients in advance count as same-day sales, correct?
Books purchased in advance that are
bulk books purchased by a client in advance count as same day sales
that are distributed at the event. Yes, as long as you can show a trail that points to that.
Okay.
So the key factor there is, are they distributed on the same day? Is that right, Jane?
The purchase according to the application guidelines, the purchase needs to happen the same day, or actually the sale needs to happen the same day. In my mind, that sale's not closed until the product is delivered. So if they're ahead of that date, they tie into that speaking event and they're delivered to that person at the speaking event. Those are dollars earned as a result of that speaking event.
Yeah, cool. All right. Jim has a question. If I did a keynote and a separate workshop on a separate topic on the same day to the same audience for a single combined fee, should I just split the fee 50-50 between the two presentations?
You can do that. Again, I would note, and that makes sense, but I would always make notes off to the side so that there's no confusion. And on that note also, we ask for 250 presentations. I always recommend you do more, because if there's ever a question of discarding a presentation based on lack of qualification for the requirements, any concern about that, you always have a little bit of padding there in your presentation. You have additional presentations listed within that 10-year time frame that we can still use. So if you have concerns about a particular presentation and you have more that you can include, please do.
Cool.
Okay. We've got about 3 more questions. If anybody else has one, maybe put those in, and we maybe have a special surprise for you at the end as well. So hang with us. Appreciate you joining us today, and hopefully this is valuable for you. Willie asks a question. Most of my speaking events are workshops, so most are 8 weeks to 22 weeks. Each week is a different subject to the same group. Do I put each week in a separate to count for, in a separate event maybe, to count towards my 250% presentations?
And again, if the audience changes or the topic changes, those are separate events. So okay. Yes, they're separate entries.
Perfect. Kirkland asks, I'm paid a fee for presentations and also make sale of online training programs that last 3 to 6 months. Do the sales of the online program count as same day sales?
I'm going to have you repeat that. I'm sorry, I'm tracking.
I'm paid a fee for presentations and also make sales of online training programs that last 3 to 6 months. Do the sales of the online program count as the same day sales? Okay.
If the sale, the money transaction has to happen before midnight or by midnight on the same day.
Okay.
So that's the measure.
Okay. And he says, number 2, many times I don't actually make the training program sell until I follow up with interested prospects. Would the follow-up sales count as same day sales?
They would not under the current CSP rules. I understand that is definitely the way a lot of business is done. Under the current CSP application rules, they would not.
Okay. Christy asks, do workbooks count as book? I noticed a different box to check on the form.
I'm not sure where you're seeing that on the form.
Over on the report, Dave, probably.
Oh, over here. So this is a sample speaker. We've entered sample data on here. You can see 100X workbook. This was probably something entered for some other demonstration, and don't read any more into that than that. It's just some sample data. Anything, a workbook, a book, a DVD, anything sold that same day, as Gene just said, as long as you're collecting the money by midnight of the day you gave the presentation, would count toward your same day sales, workbook, ebook, whatever.
Okay. Another question, Francis asks, if I teach a graduate course and have a different topic each week for 12 weeks, does that count as 12 events?
Again, different topic, change of topic, change of audience. Those are individual events.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. We made it through the questions.
We made it through the questions. All right. So, Dave, you have something to share. And then I was just going to ask one of our attendees to join us for a second. Do you want to do that first, or do you want to finish up with your stuff?
You know what? Let me talk about this, and I'll leave it up on the screen so anybody who wants to will have it.
Okay.
As someone willing to sit through this webinar, we want to give you a coupon code. If you're not at the pro level yet with eSpeakers, which you need to be for this for the CSP progress dashboard to work, that's a feature of the pro level. So if you need the pro level, we're going to give you $200 off your first year of pro service with this coupon code right there, CSP Faster. You need to go through the upgrade process and then choose annual billing and enter that promo code. That's good for $200 off. That's going to expire in 48 hours. So if you are not yet at the pro level, that's a great way to get going with this.
Okay.
I'll leave that on the screen while we go over to your surprise guest, Joe.
Yeah. Before we do that, Gene, do you have any tips or tricks or anything that you would like to share at this point, or have we kind of talked about everything?
I do. And, I apologize. I didn't hear the first part of interaction, so you may have addressed a couple of things. When it comes to applying for your CSP, more is more. If you have more than 20 clients that you want us to reach out to, or you're going to be planning to reach out to for the evaluation, don't stop at 20, include more. Clients may appear very promising that they're going to respond, and they often don't. By the same token, on the presentations I mentioned, have more presentations available. If you have more than 5 years where you can show speaker earnings of $50,000 or more, do that. And I say that because if any one presentation or any 2 or 3 presentations could be the tipping factor for whether or not your application goes through, you don't want to go through all that work and fail as a result of something that there's a question mark tied to. You can see from some of the questions that there are a lot of different speaker models, business models out there, a lot of different ways to earn speaker dollars. So this is not as straightforward a process as it might appear to be because of that. So just be cautious that you have all your ducks in a row, you have more is more, and you've got your application in on time. That's one thing. And then the other thing is you can go, the application content has been simplified to a very great degree at this point in terms of rules and what you can do. So when you start at the nsaspeaker.org about certifications webpage, go to the certifications website and review in content and keep it as your handbook, how to earn your CSP. And then the FAQs, which reference back to how to earn your CSP. Take a look at your documents, your self-applicant checklist, and just make sure you're dotting all your I's and all your T's. And then if you have questions at that point, you can definitely come to me by certification@nsaspeaker.org or pick up the phone. I can guarantee you it's going to be easier for me to track and provide answers by email. So you can do it that way. And then you're not on your own in that process. However, NSA is the primary authority. How to earn your CSP is the authority on how to get that done. Questions to other people about how to get everything done is and to make sure you're following the rules of the CSP may not get you the accurate answer. So make sure you're following that handbook. Okay.
Okay. Now, Gene, if they do have questions, they can look online, but can they also reach out and ask you personally?
They can. I will tell you that during application season, it's going to be definitely a whole lot easier for me to answer by email. If you are asking me questions that are in the handbook and the FAQ, your email response may be a little bit delayed because I'm going to be looking for those questions that people need answers for that maybe are not straightforward, so I can get them answered and move them through the application process.
What is that email address that they would send that to?
Certification@nsaspeaker.org. They can also email me direct, Gene@nsaspeaker.org, but certification@nsaspeaker.org is on the website, on that webpage.
Perfect. Well, Gene, thank you for joining us today. This has been amazing.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm going to bring a special guest in, and I just brought in the voice of the lovely Kate Holgate.
Hey, Kate.
With us?
Darling lads, how are you?
Doing well. So we decided to bring Kate in at the end here. Kate has processed probably more CSP applications than anybody on the planet.
Maybe not processed, but prepared, right? Prepared.
Not processed, prepared. Help
29.
prepare. 29?
29.
Wow. Yeah, so Kate is kind of an expert or guru at preparing these, and just wanted to give her a second to add anything that she'd like to add in regards to the process of using eSpeakers and all of collecting all the CSP data and any tips or tricks that she has found in this process.
And let me just say that Kate hasn't prepared 29 CSP applications because she just couldn't get it right. She's done that for her speaker clients. She's prepared for 29 different speaker clients. So go ahead, Kate.
Thank you for that, Dave. So I have a couple of things. Dave, can you pull up the Event CX? I want to show a lot of people were talking about the multi-day. One of the easy things to do if you do have multi-day or multi-topics where you can't cover it all under stage times, Dave, would you show them how to copy an event, please?
Yes.
So they don't have to go to Event Actions Day.
Yeah.
Because because you don't want to have to re-enter the company and the city and all of that stuff that you need for your application. So you can go in and make a copy of the event. You still have to go in and change the date, because Dave hasn't done that code yet. You have to change the date and remove the word copy from the company name, but it makes it much easier. You can just go in there and go boom, boom. And David still keeps the contact information, right? Because you still have I want to keep the contact information. Yeah. And that's much easier if you're doing these multiple day events or same day event with different topics that you can't cover it under the stage times. So that's a kind of a logistical thing. Somebody asked about, is there a format for the evaluation letter when you reach out to your potential evaluators? And Jean was spot on. I add a little bit more to that, because when my speakers reach out to their evaluators, or I reach out to their evaluators on their behalf, we make it a party, and it's all about I am applying for the highest earned certification in my industry, and I would be grateful if you would partner with me on that and agree to receive an evaluation. So we make it a big deal, because it is a big deal. And the other things as far as evaluations are concerned, because you've got to get all of those people lined up for the application by January 14th, 2019. They may not get the evaluation, the survey, until March, April, May. So when you ask them to partner, let them know it's going to be a little bit before they get the evaluation letter. And they are doing it differently this year. I don't know if this was real specific. It's in the instructions, but used to be NSA would send the evaluation letters out. Now the speakers are responsible for doing that. So if you are a speaker without a support staff and you're going to be traveling a lot in March, April, May, make sure that you are prepared to be able to send those evaluations out when you're on the road, because you have a 2-week window to get those evaluations returned from the time that, I guess, Jean will send you an email, say, here's your survey code. You then have to send it out to your evaluators, and then they have 2 weeks to get it back. So there's that. One last thing is, Dave, because I want you to always do coding for me. When you're running the quick report, I didn't see a way where you could say, don't include zero fee events on this report, right? Because I saw you have to go in and get rid of some of those that had a zero fee.
Yep. Yeah, there's not that option right now. Is that something that would be useful to add?
Oh gosh, yes, please.
All right.
Well, only because you can't include something if you didn't get
Right.
any. You have to either be paid or have back of room.
Right.
So
qualified event. Yeah. Cool.
So that would be awesome. And that was it, I think, really for me.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Hey, thanks so much. Those are some great tips from someone who's done this a few times now. So, Jean, again, thank you so much for being here with us. It's great to have the authority. Joe, thanks for being such a great moderator.
Oh boy.
And thanks to everybody for attending. And man, if there's anything we can do to help you get your CSP even faster, please feel free to reach out to us and let us know.
And go get your pro version. I've had it for 13 and a half years. You got to have pro for a lot of reasons.
Thanks, Kate.
Thank you, Kate.
And y'all don't even pay me for this. So.
Go get it. All right.
All right.
Thanks, y'all.
You guys, thank you.
See ya.
Take care.